What is going on, everyone? Platinum Beast coming at you with yet another video. Today we're going to be doing a reaction video to Rob Soltans' Platinum versus Palladium video. I'm going to be kind of showcasing the video in my video, and I'm going to kind of pause and talk about it and things like that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead and pull up Rob Soltans' video. What we're going to do is I'm going to play the video, I'm going to pause it, I'm going to discuss some things, but I really like his video and I'm going to link his video down below for you all to check out on your own time. But in this video, we're going to be doing kind of a reaction. Something a little bit different on my channel, but something fun and interesting. So let's see what good old Rob over there on Rob Soltans' YouTube channel has to say about Platinum and Palladium.
The use case for these two metals is going up by the day. There's actually, I mean, you could write page after page after page of all of the uses that are going on with both platinum and palladium. But with platinum specifically, what's interesting is on the parts per billion in the Earth's crust, gold has 4 parts per billion in the Earth's crust. So the whole argument is, oh, there's not enough platinum for it to be money. So when they say platinum can't be money, the first thing I would say is I believe that platinum makes the best money. If there was like the top echelons, if I had poker chips out, I did this in one of my videos where it's like you have the green poker chip, the blue poker chip, the red poker chip, and sometimes you have like the fancy poker rooms, you have the black poker chip, and that's usually the most expensive one, right? So platinum is like that exclusive black poker chip, and then you might have the red poker chip and the green chip. I've always seen platinum as the perfect money. The reason for that is, okay, so gold has 4 parts per billion, right? Platinum has 5 parts per billion. There's actually more platinum on Earth to meet that demand than there is gold.
Now, one thing he mentions in this little part that we just watched was platinum has 5 parts per billion in the Earth's crust and gold has 4 parts per billion. Now, one thing I want to talk about is that might be true. Now, the numbers can be different depending on really who you ask because no one really truly knows how much is in the Earth's crust. Most platinum is mined in South Africa, as you all know. However, if that is the case, if there is more platinum in the Earth's crust than gold, I would assume that that has mainly to do with the fact that gold has been mined forever and platinum is a relatively new metal. So I still believe that the Earth has less platinum than gold. However, here he mentions that platinum has 5 parts per billion, gold has 4 parts per billion. And he also talks about it being money. Now, one thing about platinum being money is that there might be, like he mentioned, more platinum in the Earth's crust than gold. And if that's the case, it could be a better use for money, given that it's more readily available in the Earth's crust, if that makes sense, right? A lot of gold is in private hands. A lot of gold has already been mined and used and all that stuff. With that being the case, the only way the government could get the same amount of gold as they would platinum would be to confiscate the gold, I assume. If what he is saying is true, where there is more platinum in the Earth's crust than gold, I think that the only way the government could get enough gold to be money would be to confiscate it from the people, like has been done in history. Now, platinum, they could just mine it and have it for money, right? They wouldn't have to take it from the people. Most people don't even hold platinum, and there's probably not enough to even take. So it is something interesting he brings up and something interesting he points out. He does see it as possibly being used as money. I'm not so sure I see that. I kind of see inflation just going into an oblivion and them just printing as much money as they want. But it's an interesting thing to kind of think about and look at. But let's take a look at what else he has to say.
It's interesting. It's right. It's neck and neck, obviously. 4 parts per billion, 5 parts per billion. Silver, on the other hand, is 75 parts per billion. And that's where you get that like 16 to 1 ratio, 16 to 1, 20 to 1 ratio, is because you have roughly 75 parts per billion silver, and then you have 4 parts per billion gold, 5 parts per billion platinum. Now, what's interesting about palladium is the demand is so hot for palladium right now that it said that the parts per billion measurement is like all over the place. I've seen it as low as 1 part per billion. I've seen it as high as 15 parts per billion. If you go on Wikipedia or if you go to all these different research places, they'll put it at 15 parts per billion. And I ask myself, I'm like, I thought it's more rare than platinum. It's up in the air in a way because there's so much mining going on for palladium. There's so much demand for it that they're actually getting more palladium to meet the demand, and they can't even meet the demand still. So they're mining more palladium. There's more supply of palladium than there is of platinum, despite there being a bit of a rumor out there that it is more rare than platinum. So I believe that there's a number being skewed, I think is the term, because we could be talking about what's above ground and what's actually readily available. So in that sense, palladium is much more rare because that demand is getting very intense for palladium right now. Especially because these auto companies are tightening their policies on, or the governments are tightening the policies on the auto companies to have better emissions on their cars. And they're not immediately going to electric cars. Now that's another thing I wanted to talk about, is there's actually some new research going.
Now, an interesting thing that he brings up is the palladium and its, I guess, deficit, so to speak, as far as being needed in the auto industry, and there just not being enough. So the supply is tightening, and that's what's driving the price. Now, he mentioned that the amount of palladium in the Earth's crust is really unknown, and that makes sense because for the most part, palladium is somewhat of a byproduct of other mining industries such as nickel, as well as platinum and other things. So when they pull stuff out of the ground, palladium is just kind of an afterthought, and it just kind of comes out with it, and they're like, oh, we found palladium. This is great because this is a valuable metal right now. It is really hard to gauge what the availability of palladium in the Earth's crust is. And so that's what makes that metal much more speculative, right? You could invest in palladium and you could buy palladium and you could see the price go up or you could see the price go down. It's really hard to gauge. And so what that does in my mind is it makes it a metal that if you purchase it, you are somewhat just kind of guessing as to where things might go. But it's interesting stuff nonetheless.
Going on to use platinum and palladium because it's a very good catalyst. And in these electric vehicles, they need a catalyst there, and they're looking to make a better, more dense battery. And so they use platinum like literally to dense, put your airbags in your car safe. They coat it in platinum because it holds it there dense and it's non-corrosive. It's one of the most non-corrosive metals. It's actually more of a noble metal than gold is. So silver is a noble metal and it won't corrode, but platinum, it is a noble metal and it doesn't corrode easily, but it can corrode, is what I meant to say with silver. Platinum, on the other hand, it just doesn't corrode. It holds up against pretty much anything. The other interesting thing about platinum and palladium is if you take a nail and you scratch it, it'll stay the same weight. None of the platinum or palladium leaves the bar. It's just a very unique metal. The skill set of it is just wild to me. So the other thing that it does as a catalyst is it reacts with oxygen. So in the health industry, or if you're trying to measure your oxygen levels, and all these different medical devices are using platinum because of that catalyst effect that it has with oxygen. Now, the biggest things that are happening is the possibility of a better battery, a more dense battery that could hold a longer charge, which you could imagine if you could hold a charge where you only have to charge once a week instead of once every day or every other day, you're going to want that in your electric car. So there's a big research project going on by, I believe it's the Platinum Group Metals and like Angelo Metals, something along those lines, that are working with a company to develop these, platinum and palladium based batteries, which is very, very interesting. If that happens in the future, you could see some real fireworks happening here.
So one thing he brings up is electric cars and the medical industry and platinum's inability to corrode and things of that nature. I've talked about this many times on my channel, and platinum is a great metal for that aspect. It does not corrode. It does not dissolve. It does not dissipate. It doesn't really do anything. It's impossible almost to really destroy this metal. It is just such a durable and hardy metal. And one thing he talked about specifically was electric cars. Now, one thing that I think of is we already have technology to enhance charging abilities for batteries and make batteries last longer and charge faster and all that stuff. The only problem is when they do testing on these things, a lot of these batteries, they explode or they burn up or what have you. If you remember specifically, not that long ago, so most of you should be able to remember, there was a cell phone company that is known as, I believe, HTC, made a phone that was literally blowing up in people's pockets, right? It was catching on fire, it was burning, it was melting, it was really, really bad. They lost a ton of money buying back everyone's phones and all kinds of stuff, and it was just madness. It was absolute madness. They weren't letting people get on planes with the HTC phone, and it was really, really bad. And what that was caused by was the battery. The battery in the phone was overheating, or whatever the case was, and causing these phones to light up and burn up in people's pockets, on people's dressers, whatever. And the reason for that was they made it charge so fast, they made it so big, and, they must have just been off by a little bit on their calculations of safety. And it turns out it ended up bad. Now, if you can coat a battery or you can encase a battery in platinum, and that battery can get as hot as it wants and it'll never explode, it'll never burn up, it'll never completely just fail on you, that could be a potential game changer, like he says, right? Because they have the ability to pump a ridiculous amount of energy into a battery. The only problem is that battery will catch fire because it's just charging up so fast, right? And so much energy is being moved at such a pace that the batteries, we don't have the technology quite to, I guess, cool off the batteries or keep them cool as they're charging. If you ever leave your phone on the charger, right, sometimes you'll feel it get kind of warm after a while, especially if you have a fast charger. Now, it's not dangerous per se, but it gets warm because it's charging up so fast and so much energy is being pushed to it. But if we could make a battery out of platinum, or at least the casing of the battery out of platinum, that could be a real, real game changer. But let's see what else he has to say.
But to cap off the parts per billion aspect of it, the palladium parts per billion is a bit all over the place because it's a byproduct of these other metals as well. So I believe you can find palladium on its own, but the majority of the mining is coming as being a byproduct of mining for other metals. So there's kind of this, it's hard to find the figure. So I've seen 1 part per billion up to 15 parts per billion. So to give it comparison, silver is 75 parts per billion. So I think it's probably less than 15 parts per billion, but I did see a few articles that said palladium is 15 parts per billion. So it's somewhere in that range. I think it gets messed up because we're talking about what's in the crust versus actually outside of the crust sort of thing, and all those types of numbers get mixed together. But very interesting just how rare platinum is and the skill set of platinum, and also how rare palladium is, but the things that people aren't looking at in a way. People think that you just mine palladium and it's in one place and you mine it and there it is and just evenly gets dispersed around the world. And that's kind of the perception a lot of people have. And they go, well, why in the world would you go after the more rare one? It doesn't make any sense. If palladium is more rare than platinum and they do the same thing and it costs 3 times as much, all of us were looking at that and going, okay, this doesn't make any sense. And I'm a little bit, I ramble a little bit. That's why I got this notepad, so I remembered to talk about these specific things. But the next thing I want to talk about here, so I hope I'm kind of on track. I tend to ramble a bit. I hope it's worth your time. If it is.
And one thing I want to mention real quick is palladium. He mentioned, why would you go after the more rare metal if you can use platinum? Well, one thing that I hadn't thought about is palladium more rare than platinum? It's mined as a byproduct many times. Many times it comes out of the ground with other metals, and not just platinum group metals. So there's a chance that it could be less rare than platinum. And people think of it as being more rare because it's worth twice as much. But that has more to do with its demand than it does its rarity. And thinking of it as a platinum group metal, I always thought, platinum is the least rare of the platinum group metals, but that might not be the case, to be honest, if we really think about it. It may not be the case at all, right? And platinum could be more rare than palladium. Now, he mentioned earlier on in the video about how the numbers are all over the place as far as how much palladium is in the Earth's crust. That has a lot to do with it being a byproduct, right? There are some places that mine specifically for palladium. However, a lot of times it just comes out of the ground as a byproduct. So that means it's kind of all over the place with how much is in the Earth's crust and how much the world has. So there's a chance that platinum is more rare than palladium. And so if that's the case, then platinum could be one day seen as palladium is seen today, and palladium could be seen as platinum is seen today. A $1,000 metal versus a $3,000 metal. Interesting stuff to look at, but let's see what else he has to say.
Appreciate you being here. The melting points. This is another big aspect on why these auto companies are favoring palladium, is it's easier to work with. Because platinum is such a noble metal, it's such a hard metal to fake, it is so dense, it is literally twice as dense, roughly twice as dense as palladium, really hard to work with. Really hard to melt it down. The melting point of platinum is about 3,200 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that into perspective, silver and gold are well under 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So you need over 1,200 degrees higher than silver and gold to melt platinum. Palladium is about 500 degrees less, comes in at roughly 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit to melt a palladium bar. So it's easier to work with. It's more ductile, I believe is the term, which means it can be made into wire and those different things a lot easier than platinum, obviously because it's much less dense than platinum. So I would imagine that they've outfitted their equipment to work with this metal because the metal is easier to work with. It's that the first time I got palladium, and this was actually my first larger palladium bar I've had. I've had a couple a lot of 1 ounce palladium pieces. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of ounces of 1 ounce palladiums, but this was the first time I got a larger palladium in, and I ended up going, I'm gonna hang on to that one for a while. And so when you first see those side by side, I was very surprised because from not being well read on it in the past, the first time I saw a palladium bar, I'm going, why is it so much thicker than platinum? I thought they were the platinum group metals. I thought they were the same thing. They're not. They're totally different. They serve as the same process. They both absorb hydrogen really well, and they both clean air really well, and you change the bad emissions into water and carbon dioxide, which is what they do a great job at that. And they have these really high degrees. I mean, still 2,800 degrees for a melting point for palladium is still pretty high. It's just not as high as platinum. Platinum is 500 degrees higher to melt it than palladium, and then over 1,200 degrees higher than gold. So gold is really easy to melt. Silver's really easy to melt. Platinum, you need special equipment. You got to get this thing to melt down and then to work with it. Once you have it melted, to work with it and to do things with it, it's just not even close to as easy to work with as silver and gold, and palladium is easier to work with than platinum. So I imagine something along those lines with these auto companies. They have equipment designed to be using palladium, and platinum is a bit harder for them to work with. So they're willing to pay that premium. So you got an even disbursement of palladium, much more even throughout the countries in mining operations. So not one country is just the only place where it comes from. And with platinum, it's kind of like that over in South Africa. Now, Russia makes a lot of platinum as well. There's a bit of platinum, I believe, in Canada that gets made, and I believe in a little bit in the States, but nothing near the same amount as these other countries that pay.
And so one key point I want to make at this point in the video is he actually makes somewhat of an argument for palladium, right? Palladium is easier to work with than platinum, and I didn't really know that coming into this video. I didn't know that palladium was so much easier to work with than platinum. He does mention it's still harder than gold and silver. However, it has a lower melting point and is just overall easier to work with. So that could be an incentive for the auto manufacturers to keep using palladium. So that's an argument for palladium rather than against palladium. This video that he put out is titled Palladium vs. Platinum Ultimate Showdown. And it gives a bunch of different cases for platinum and palladium. And it gives the pros and cons of both. And I think it's just very well put together and a very well-rounded video that you should definitely check out the full video on your own time. Again, I will be linking it in the description down below. But let's go ahead and see what else he has to say.
On the other, you might have to look that up yourself, or I think I have the paperwork maybe a little bit later in the video. This one might be a little bit longer of a video, guys, so I hope it's worth your time. I really do. I know that I ramble a bit, but I really wanted to go over all of those points on the density and the parts per billion, market caps, all of that. The market cap is a very big deal to me because it's like 12 trillion for gold's market cap. On top of that, you have a metal that is the exact same density as gold. You have tungsten that comes in at exactly 19.3 grams per cubic centimeter. Not like 20 and 19.3. No, they're both exactly the same density to the decimal point. It's pretty scary when it comes to being able to barter with gold. You have to make sure, if you're not buying from a reputable dealer, make sure you have a Veriscan or whatever precious metals tester, because that's scary to me when it comes to gold. When now with platinum, if you get a platinum bar, you know you got a platinum bar. There isn't a metal. All you have to do is really weigh it. Weigh it on your own scale. Make sure it's 10 troy ounces or 1 troy ounce or whatever it might be, and then look at it and feel it next to your silver and stuff. I mean, you're not going to have, it's just so blatantly obvious that this is platinum. Now, it's the same silvery color, right? And people say that, oh, it's silver, it's just silver color. When you hold a platinum bar, you know you got a platinum bar. And I think that is a major, major selling point. So when I hear the Mike Maloney's and I hear different individuals saying platinum can never be money, I think to myself, it's not nearly as mined as gold. There's enough of it. There's actually more of it in the crust than gold, slightly more, 4 parts per billion versus 5 parts per billion. And then on top of it, you have this unique density of the metal that's very much so needed in industry. And now when we're going to these hydrogen cars and you're needing, like, think about it. It's very dense. It's extremely non-corrosive. It's pretty much the most noble of the metals other than the extremely rare other platinum group metals, which I believe is iridium. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it has a little bit more of a hardness than platinum, but platinum is more abundant. You have that hardness. And when you think about battery packs, you think to yourself, well, I want to make sure that doesn't leak. I want to make sure that energy is really harnessed. You got the heat of these batteries. That's the biggest problem, is you hear about these batteries catching fire and containing that. Platinum is perfect for that. So when I hear about them possibly developing a battery for platinum, it's pretty mind-boggling. And on top of that, you look at the market cap at being only in the hundreds of billions, 270 billion roughly on the market cap, with demand that's exceeding the supply. If you're looking for an investment metal, I think both palladium and platinum are great choices. And this is not financial advice, disclaimer. Make sure I throw a disclaimer in my videos. This is my personal opinion that I do with my personal money, not financial advice. But
okay, and so that's basically where I'm going to wrap up this kind of reaction and video. There's a lot more great information in Rob's evaluation of platinum versus palladium. But basically, what the video is talking about is, right there at the end, he said that both of them are solid buys and solid, metals to have in anyone's stack. And you really can't go wrong with either. And there's definitely pros and cons to both. Okay, I love the video. I love what else it has to say. Again, be sure to check out Rob's video. Go show him some support on his channel. But he has just a great informational video on palladium versus platinum. And overall, guys, there's a lot of unique abilities that people are just overlooking with these metals, and they don't give credit where credit is due, right? So at the end of the day, if you're going to buy platinum or you're going to buy palladium, go into it with the mindset that this is a bit of a speculative metal, and it is a bit of a speculative play. However, videos like Rob's over there are great resources of information, and that video, I think, sums up perfectly why both platinum and palladium are great metals to stack. So with all that being said, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did enjoy this down in the comment section below. It's a little bit different video than what I usually put out, but I decided to just try it out and see how it went. It was a lot of fun for me to kind of make it and kind of respond to, you know, Rob Soltans' videos. He has a lot of great videos. He's a big crypto guy. I'm not, so I don't really watch much of his crypto stuff, but if you're into crypto, he's got that as well. And he's a huge platinum guy. He has an amazing platinum and palladium stack, so definitely go give him a check out if you ever get the chance. But with all that being said, guys, I appreciate all of y'all for stopping by. Be sure to hit that like button down below, hit the subscribe button, and leave me a comment in the comment section down below. And with all that being said, until next time, we will see you.